What's up, everybody? It's your boy Matt from Takes from Matt here, or should I say it's MattBeast1419, aka Take Your Fan for Life 1419. And if you don't know why I'm saying that, I'm here to talk about the Undertaker Last Ride documentary. Never in the world would I have thought that I would make another wrestling type video on YouTube, but here we are. So in this day and age, we're all confined to our houses. We need some kind of entertainment with sports and everything gone. ESPN had their Last Ride documentary with Michael Jordan, which, don't get me wrong, it was amazing. It was great. I loved all 10 episodes. Watched them all. They were awesome. But this one actually means more to me because, I was born in 1994. So I actually didn't get much into sports and stuff when I was really young anyways. I was too busy playing Pokemon at the time. But around 2008, I got into wrestling. And around that same time, I kind of got into sports. So, of course, I didn't watch any Michael Jordan. Of course, I watched Space Jam. But this guy, The Undertaker, got me into wrestling. And if I didn't get into wrestling, I wouldn't have made YouTube videos, probably. Or I wouldn't be here right now. Or I wouldn't have made all the friends I've made along the way online. And that sucks to think about. But I have The Undertaker to think about that mostly. Because back in 2008 was when I first started kind of getting into wrestling, or the WWE. And my friends, they kept trying to get me into it, and I was like, no. And eventually I kind of caved as I finally felt like it, because normally your friends will be like, hey, you need to test this out, and you'll be like, maybe at some point. You kind of put it on the list of stuff to look at eventually, and at some point you get in the mood to actually look at it. And I really did enjoy it. I watched a couple shows here and there, but it really didn't click until WrestleMania 24. I didn't watch it live. My friends had they ordered it on pay-per-view, and then they recorded it for me on a disc. They said, hey, here's this disc. Go check it out. Tell us what you think. And it was like a day or two right after WrestleMania 24. And I remember the bus ride home, getting off the bus, going to my house, and going to my PS2, PS3, whatever it was at the moment, popping that disc in and watching it. And man, it was awesome. And that main event that night, what was it? It was Undertaker versus Edge for the World Heavyweight Championship. Such an amazing match. Wouldn't really quite say amazing, but it was really, really good. Like, it was a great match. And it got me hooked, per se. And then following that Edge and Undertaker feud, they went on to have amazing matches afterwards. They had a good match at Backlash, another good one at Judgment Day, a good one at Extreme Rules, or whatever it was called back then, One Night Stand, I don't know. They capped it all off in the Hell in a Cell match at SummerSlam. They just had some really good matches, I'm telling you. And that feud pretty much equated to me actually following wrestling. And now here we are, 12 years later, actually, which is crazy to think about. And The Undertaker, he's been on his last couple legs here for a little while. He only comes back on WrestleMania, and I don't really watch wrestling anymore, but if there's an Undertaker match, I'm probably going to go out of my way to find it and watch it. And you best believe that's what I've done for the most part. So this documentary kind of picks up around WrestleMania 33. The Undertaker said, hey, we need to get a film crew to follow out these next couple days, because it could be my last. It could be my last ride. Insert title there. But bad jokes aside, of course, seeing this documentary is very interesting because The Undertaker, this guy, he has just devoted himself to this character for like 30 years now. And he's never really kind of broke the kayfabe. He's never gone out and done these public events. You haven't really seen him in the public eye like this, where he's just very candid about his career and candid about his thoughts and coming off like a actual kind of human being. I don't mean to sound like that, because he sounds like he's a great guy, but when you're devoted to a character that much, it speaks volumes to your showmanship, I guess you could say, and how devoted he was to this character. And for that, you got to just put it up to him, because, man, it's crazy that he's just kept this up for so long. And, of course, he's had times in his career where he's been a little bit more open, like when he was the American Badass gimmick back in the day. I feel like he had a documentary on one of the DVDs. Maybe it was called The Last Ride at the time. I'm not for sure. No, it was This Is My Yard was the DVD. I actually remember the name of it. He had some interview segments on there where he would talk as a normal WWE DVD would at the time. Or a superstar on a WWE. A superstar on a WWE DVD. I'm sorry, I'm getting tongue twisted here. But yeah, this kind of followed the night of WrestleMania 33. The first episode did. And I mean, if you watch that match, you're probably disappointed. I mean, you could tell he just wasn't himself. He was out of shape, which he obviously alluded to in the documentary. And he was overweight, out of shape. I don't know any other words you can really quite say to that, but he wasn't really performing to his standards. And when you're one of the greats in anything that you do, or you're very passionate about something, and you look back at your body of work and you notice, hey, this isn't as good as it could have been, that irks you and you want to do better. And that's kind of what followed him in wanting to come back after this quote unquote definitive ending that he had. I mean, it was story wise, looking at it, the way he just put down his gloves, put down his cape, put down his hat. You thought that was going to be it. You thought that was going to be the last time you saw The Undertaker wrestle that night. But he went and got his hip surgery, which was pretty gruesome to look at, not going to lie. Anytime any of these documentaries show off these surgeries, like a recent one that comes to mind is the Alex Smith E60 documentary. But I mean, that's a whole different beast. This man destroyed his leg and he was like almost dead to a point at one point because of complications. But I mean, any surgery is bad to look at, and it just makes me think, oh man, I really hope it's going to be a long time before I have to do one of those, because I don't know, that stuff just scares me a little bit. So watching this documentary has been very, very enlightening, because seeing him speak candidly about his career, seeing him being in normal settings with his wife, Michelle McCool, seeing him with his kids, and just seeing like backstage interactions. Those are very interesting. It's just very cool. It's very cool to see, especially when stuff like this has just been kept under the ropes for so long. And seeing this documentary been put together is really interesting. Of course, we're only 2 episodes in so far, so we haven't gotten too far into it. I'm interested to see what else he's going to dive into. See if he's going to talk about his past, see if he's going to talk about anything like that. And also, along with the documentary, he's been on a press run lately. Like, he was on the Bill Simmons podcast today, or yesterday. I think it was on Tuesday, so yesterday. And he was sitting there just talking about, like, his favorite WrestleMania matches of his. And, of course, he brings up the Shawn Michaels match at 25, which was, of course, the year after I had gotten into wrestling. And I remember that Shawn Michaels match very vividly because I went and made, like, a highlight video, and that was, like, one of the most viewed videos I've ever gotten. And, of course, it got copyright struck with a copyright. I cannot speak English, pardon me. But, man, that match was just amazing. And then I even liked the 26 match even more personally, just because of the story it told and the raw emotion in it. It was just amazing. And he went on to say how he loved the whole story that was put together with the Triple H matches the next 2 years after that. But yeah, just seeing all these press runs he's done. He did that interview with one of the UFC guys. Or an MMA guy. I can't quite pinpoint my name on the interviewer, but that's a fallacy on my end. But yeah, this documentary has just been really, really good. And seeing him just actually talk about the streak, talk about his complications in his career, seeing him train, and actually seeing him like train with like Primo of all people, which is kind of random, but I mean, Primo, you could tell he's a good worker, so having him as a guy that you can kind of train with was good. And then seeing how he had to go and do CrossFit, couldn't be me. I would definitely not do CrossFit myself. I've never been much into the super high intensity cardio weight myself, but it's very cool. And then seeing how he like went to Vince's office and he's about to negotiate the contract, I would have loved to hear that and see Vince's process with that. But speaking on Vince McMahon, in the documentary, they even had that part where they ask him, what does The Undertaker mean to you? And he just couldn't even say anything. So it was it's very compelling to see that from him and see him just display such raw emotion, because he just couldn't even get out words on what the Undertaker means to him, because those two have just been like together through thick and thin. They've been through the Monday Night Wars together. They've been through the very beginning, with Vince pitching the idea of the Undertaker character to him, and then Undertaker bringing more stuff to the table and perfecting the character to a T. And it's just very interesting to hear all these things about the Undertaker actually talking about his experiences in pro wrestling. And with all these interviews coming out, it's just going to be hard to keep up with each one. And he'll talk about different stuff. Like in the MMA one, he was talking about how, and in that interview, he was talking about how he went to the UFC fight with Brock Lesnar fighting, and he had that epic stare down that kind of went viral, I think, somewhat in social media, and was pretty much the catalyst of Brock Lesnar actually coming back to wrestling, and would later on to go and defeat the Streak, which is a whole nother story in of itself, which I want to hear more about the whole thoughts of him going and beating the Streak. And of course, he's went out and talked about how he had the concussion, and he can't remember anything. Like, he can't even remember when it happened. And he said in one podcast that he was literally like out of it for 2 weeks. He just had to sit in his bedroom with the lights off because he was so messed up from that WrestleMania 30 match. And it's just insane, the punishment that he had to deal with after that match. And yeah, it's just been a wild ride, and I'm really looking forward to the other 3 parts. I'll probably make another update video on this, but yeah, I just wanted to kind of make a different sort of video on this channel. I know it's mainly just been NFL talk for the first couple videos here, but it's pretty much going to be any kind of sports related kind of topic that I kind of feel like I can put my 2 cents in on. I know there's not a whole lot going on right now, but this is just something I really wanted to talk about, and kind of wanted to go back to my roots here. But yeah, Undertaker Last Ride documentary, I highly recommend it if you're a wrestling fan, especially if you love The Undertaker, which I do. I do still to this day. That man, I have a lot of respect for him, especially after this documentary. Anyways, hope everyone has a good rest of their day. Peace.